You're listening to the I Love You Keep Going podcast with George Haas. For more information, please visit our website at www.mettagroup.org. That's www.mettagroup.org.
Welcome everybody. This is I Love You Keep Going. It is June 2nd, 2022 at 7:36 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And I've been talking the last couple of weeks about peace and finding peace, and also peace with a sense of self-experience. And I thought that I would continue with this. I am going to be traveling for the rest of the month of June, so that the next meeting of this will be in the first week of July. Well, the first week, it's the 27th of June, but the Thursday, I think it's the 1st of July. Am I wrong? Let's see. Nope, it's actually the 30th. Nope. Am I wrong? I can't remember what I did. Let's see here. Yeah, the 30th of June will be the next one of these after tonight. We do often translate the word dukkha, which is a Pali word, into the English word suffering. Shinzen used to translate it in unsatisfactoriness, and Dan Brown used to translate it into reactive. So a lot of the translations that we use for the different Pali terms we have were actually done in England in the 1890s, when the first texts were translated into English. And so we have those meanings, which are actually not American English, and also long ago when they had different kinds of meaning. Unsatisfactoriness I like, and reactivity I like. The idea here is that when you cling to things, the clinging is the thing that causes the suffering. That if you don't cling and you simply allow things to arise and pass, then there's a freedom from suffering in that sense. So that it's actually the clinging or the grasping. Dan Brown used to call it grab, the grab of sensory experience. So we also tend to talk about dukkha as three levels of that. One is old age, sickness, and death. The second level is getting what you want and losing it, not getting what you want, or having to put up with things that you don't want. And the third level is this subtle, ongoing, constant irritation that nothing is actually the way that you would have it if you were in charge of anything. The double-edged sword, it's not how you want it, and you're not actually in charge. We do like these ideas of control, being able to control our environment. Often we limit our environment so that we can have more of a sense of control around it. In Shinzen's way of parsing this, unsatisfactoriness means that the nature of the human condition is unsatisfactory, that we're born, we grow old, we get sick, we die. There's nothing to do about that. That's the nature of impermanence. It's, I think, in the early part of life, hard to get a grip on the nature of aging. For the first 30 years of your life or so, the first 25 years of your life, aging is actually a good thing, because you keep getting better and more diverse skills, a better way of functioning in the world. And then once you get past that part of where you're just growing and things are improving, you get to the place where you begin to age. So sometime in your late 20s or your early 30s, there's that shift from growing and becoming more vital into actually aging. And most people notice it as a reduction of energy. Maybe a third of your energy is lost. But it stays pretty even through your 30s and through your 40s. It isn't again until you reach your early 50s that there's another shift and you move out of that adult period into the old age period. It's very funny to talk about the biology of the human body and to suggest that old age begins in your mid 50s, because anybody who isn't in their mid 50s or older refuses the idea altogether. It's just simply not true that that's when old age starts. But if you've been through that and you've noticed that actually that is the beginning of old age, it's quite different. And that old age period runs to about 75. Turns out most people die in their 70s, which seems like a really short time when you're 69. Wow, that went fast. But time, is quite elastic, and you have that sense of sometimes it seems really glacially slow, and sometimes it seems really fast. When you have perspective of a longer life, you have a sense of actually how long it takes to get anything to happen and to get anything done, which you don't really have earlier in life. And have you been able to figure out what it is that you like to do, what has meaning to you yet? And have you been able to organize your life in such a way that that's how you spend your time, or has that not been something that you've been able to do? All of these things come up, of course, as you age. If you have the longevity genes and you live past your 70s into your 80s and 90s, then you have the experience of old age. And each of these periods of time are different in terms of energy and engagement and capacity. But the question really, or the conversation is really about peace. How do you have peace with the sense of you're in a human body? This is the human condition. This is the condition that we all who are in this human incarnation face. And can you orient yourself around these tracks? So we're born into the care of people who take care of us. Depending on how they take care of us, we develop the skills to meet the challenges in life that we're going to have. Some of us get a better set than other people do, and it's completely faultless. I think maybe, although I have been in the presence of a monk or two that talk about it just as the karma of your previous life unfolding, so that if you have a terrible beginning, it's because of things that you've done in previous lives. I've always found that to be a dubious interpretation. um, or I was talking to a psychiatrist the other day, and she said that there's a whole bunch of new literature opening up on what's being called toxic positivity, which I found hilarious. But the toxic positivity spin on it would be that you intentionally choose the dire circumstances of your current life so that you can get the information that you need to then use it to help all sentient beings. I tend to remain agnostic to the edge of atheism on this. Christian?
Is there like an official, or do different schools of Buddhism actually have like official stances on the sort of karma just being like just kind of straightforward cause and effect, or it kind of having this, I don't know, to me kind of sounds like victim blaming sometimes, but perhaps that's an unfair way of framing it. Like,
Um, have you heard the story of the farmer and the horse?
yeah,
Um, I think the thing about karma is interesting. It unfolds, and most of the time we judge it as good karma or bad karma because we like it or we don't like it. But that would not be a good way of evaluating it. How do you know whether it's good karma or not? The teachers that I've relied on have said that what you do is you learn to live an ethical life, and then in living an ethical life, what you can anticipate is good karma. So that the things that unfold, even if they're not what you intended or what you wanted, if you're living an ethical life, you can assume that they're good karma and then attempt to understand what it is that's actually happening so that you can orient yourself in that way. In the story of the horse and the farmer, you know, the farmer has a horse which he uses to plow the field. And one morning he goes out and the corral where the horse was is empty. And his neighbors come by and say, "What terrible luck you have. You have the worst luck out of all of us. This is such bad luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" And then a few days later, the horse that he had trained returns with 3 wild horses, and now he has 4 horses. And the neighbors come by and they say, "What good luck you have. You have the best luck out of any of us. This is such good luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" And then the next day, his eldest son goes out and attempts to break one of the wild horses. It throws him and he breaks his leg. And then the neighbors come by and say, "What bad luck. You have the worst luck out of all of us. This is such terrible luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" And then a week later, a warlord comes through town and he conscripts all of the able-bodied sons to go to war, except he leaves behind the farmer's son because his leg is broken. And the neighbors come by and they say, "What good luck you have. You have the best luck out of all of us. This is such good luck." And the farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" So do you have that sense that if you're living an ethical life, that the things that unfold then are good karma, and that you then explore how it might be that and go with the flow of that? Another way to examine that might be through the quantum mechanics view of that, or quantum physics view of that. It's that the outcomes, these things that happen, are so complex that we can't possibly compute or track all of the things that happened in order for this moment to arise, nor comprehend fully what this moment is, nor predict with any sense of accuracy what our intention and action is going to produce. And so we separate intention from action, and we make an ethical choice in forming the intention, and then take the action, and then see what happens, and then goal redirect in each moment as we take in what the experience is. Again, touching into the idea of peace, that if you're in a place of peace and you're not clinging to the outcome, then you can take in the outcome and pivot into the next moment, into the next intention, into the next action, without grabbing onto the idea of what should have happened or grabbing onto the idea of what you wanted. and actually going in each moment with the conditions of each moment as they are. Is that making sense? In some sense, it doesn't matter what you intended or what in the formation of your intention you predicted the outcome would be, because you don't have that. What you have is what happened. And so we're constantly moving from what happened to intention, action, what happened, intention and action, and not clinging to what we would like instead. How good are you at doing that? And then if you were to understand that actually that's freedom, would it make it more desirable? Have you ever tried to get something to happen, something particular to happen, and understood how much effort actually that can take to get something to happen? Or have you ever tried to have something happen and then it just sort of happens without so much effort? Which one is actually better? So for instance, I've been trying to get my book printed in this period of production supply issues. You may have heard about that. When I designed the book, I designed it with particular papers in mind. And it turned out that it was simply not possible to get those papers. But I did spend a long time, maybe 5 or 6 months, trying to get them. And then in the end, picked a different paper. So I have it's a book of photographs. Where is it? Is it here? It's not, but I was trying to get it printed on 100-pound matte paper, which was not available. But what was available is paper that commemorative Bibles are typically printed on. So 100-pound paper's got a little bit of stiffness to it, and it sort of has a heft to it that feels substantial. And if you've ever picked up a commemorative Bible, the paper is quite thin. But it turns out there was a ton of paper that people typically print commemorative Bibles on, and there was no 100-pound paper at all. So the book is now printed on that paper that's typically reserved for commemorative Bibles, which you won't really be able to tell when you look at the book, except that there's a quality to the thinness and the opacity of the paper that's nice. And then I wanted to have a 3-part binding on it, but the paper cover, the cover paper and the canvas for the backing wasn't really available, so it's printed in that way. And over the course of I started this process last April, not April 22, April 21. So to give you an idea of how much effort went into pushing it through. It's now sitting on a pallet in China, and it no longer takes 4 to 6 weeks to ship something from China. It now takes 3 or 4 months, if you can get a spot, which we don't have yet. So once we get a spot in a container, it'll take 3 or 4 months to come. So this is just this, each time something comes up, making a decision and pushing it forward. it took me a few days to get used to the way the book looks because it's so different than the way that I imagined it would look. But now I kind of like the way that it looks. Are you following me on this line of thinking? So it's moving out of creating these grand plans and then clinging to these grand plans and being disappointed if it doesn't go according to the planning, but actually to think about how that might work and then take the form the intention of what needs to be done now, taking the action and then seeing what happens. There's that almost a surprise quality to that. Christian?
You have a sense of like the whether there's certain practices like the attachment as opposed to the vipassana or working together that have helped you to be flexible in these kinds of ways?
Well, I think that the combined metta vipassana practice is a good place. The vipassana is really good at simply watching things unfold and watching where your attention goes. If you do enough practice, of course, you begin to see that you have preferences over some things over others, and that you don't create accurate representations of yourself or accurate representations of the world, that you create from this highly curated selection of things that you prefer, this experience of self and experience of world, that if you begin to open it up beyond that list of preferences, you see that there's a vast array of things there that you don't normally experience because you don't focus on them. That making sense? So in that way, you begin to expand the view from that limited conditioning. And also, if you don't control the experience of sensing, it opens up the understanding that actually it's automatic mostly. You're just creating these things automatically without the sense of self, without a self controlling it. And that the more you do that, the more experience you have that the sense of self is created in the same way that the sense of the world is created. And that there isn't a doing, a center of the self experience, which actually makes it easier not to cling to the reactions of self that would demand clinging, if you're following me. You have a sense of self, and you have a sense that it's real, and you have a sense that it needs to be protected, and it needs to be valued, and it needs to be listened to. And when those things don't happen, you become defensive of that selfing experience and demand that other people recognize it as this solid thing that has been damaged by their lack of attention. But when you really just pay attention to the flow of these experiences coming and going without any intention to direct anything, you see that there's nothing substantial there that needs to be defended. And so you begin to let go of those demands of other people. Is that making sense? Then you can just be in this flow of experience, and you can take in your reactions to other people's reactions without it coalescing in this rigid, hardened sense of self and the demands that come from reifying that. That I call that, moving from you did this to me to this is what I'm thinking is going on. This is how I'm interpreting what's going on. What was your intention in doing that? and being open to hearing those intentions, and understanding that everything that you experience is interpreted through your definitions of everything, and everything that other people experience and everything that they express are based on their definitions of everything. And you need to really begin to understand what the definitions you're using are and the definitions that they're using so that you can really understand each other and not get caught up in defining what they're saying in your terms only. That's making sense. This is what I think is going on. It's important that you put your cards down first, because if you don't do that, everybody will think you're going to trick them and they won't want to tell you what's actually going on. This is what's happening for me in this exchange. What's happening for you? This is what this means to me. What does it mean to you? And what are you trying to tell me? And does it match how I'm experiencing it? Or this is what I'm trying to tell you, and it doesn't seem to match your reaction to what I'm attempting to communicate. Can we come to understand each other? It doesn't mean that you always come to agreement, and you may have legitimate differences, but at least you'll know what they are, and you won't be reacting to a misunderstanding. It's have you ever misunderstood someone? No, never happened. I know. And when you understood them, did you regret the response ever? It still happens to me. If I'm really tired, my resilience flags terribly, and I can be quite judgmental. So in each moment, the arising of experience comes as pure sensing data, then compared to the perceptual database where you assign meaning to it. And then in that process of assigning meaning to experience, it forms into conceptual reality, which has a quality of realness to it. The more time you spend taking that apart, of course, the harder it is to believe in the absolute reality of it. It becomes these constructions that you're making in the moment, depending on the conditions, so that you can question them. And that's really this place of greater peace, is where you constantly move back between, this is what I'm taking in, this is the data, this is how I'm sensing things, and this is what I'm making it into. Is this an accurate picture of actually what I'm sensing? Is this an accurate reflection of that? And not clinging to any of these constructions that you make. It's just a construction in the moment, and as conditions change, that construction changes. This movement, I think of it as almost a rocking movement back and forth. This is what I'm sensing, this is what I've made, this is what I'm sensing, this is what I've made. When you want to add another person into that, this is what I'm sensing, this is how I'm responding. I'm tracking how my response is affecting the perception of the other person. I'm tracking how they're responding to it. I'm taking in their reaction to what's happening, and I'm understanding the effect that it's having on me, and how that changes the way that I respond to it, so that we would call that mindfulness of inside, mindfulness of outside, and mindfulness of inside and outside. And in not grasping on or not grabbing on to any of these formulations, they just come and go in this this flow, and each moment is refreshed. Each moment is refreshed. And with that ethical framework underneath it, we're intending to be non-harming in each moment. And with people that are close to us, if we really take in that sense that they are also intending not to be harming, it opens these dialogues that are quite the possibility of real intimacy opens up in that. Is that all making sense? You asked about the way in for this. The other piece, of course, is the development of intentional positivity. When we talk about toxic positivity, what we mean is that you use just the positivity and develop just the positivity as a way of suppressing awareness of the negative. We used to call it spiritual bypassing, where you just focus on the positive side of things and never attend to the negative side of things. And what you notice in those circumstances is that when the positivity gives way, you have these eruptions of unaddressed, unintegrated negativity that can be quite damaging. So in this metta vipassana approach, the vipassana side is exploring all things, including the negative, and there's no intention to avoid that in any way. And at the same time, building up the positive side. They're two systems that are separate, and you have to develop them independently. So we work to reduce the impact of the negative side, the shadow side of things, and we work to bolster the positive side. So then we work with the Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes, to intentionally develop the capacity for loving kindness, for compassion, for joyfulness, and for equanimity, this underlying sense of peace that comes from not clinging to anything. So let's do some practice. What do you think? Shall we do metta practice or shall we do vipassana practice? All right. Since nobody can choose, I will. Let's do some metta practice. So we'll start with an easy person and then practice for self. So any comments or questions about the practice we did? Questions about something else? All right, we do have a new level 1 coming up. I think it's at the end of June. No, it's in July and August. We have a level 2 coming up at the end of the summer. We have a retreat that's going to be from October 1st until October 8th in person up at the Seven Circles Center in the Sierras. We're doing our first European class in November, so that if you happen to be somebody who stays up all night long, you can sit from 1 in the morning until 9 or 10 in the morning. I think that's it. We're planning to take a trip to Thailand in February, I think, mid-February, for 3 weeks. Sit in a monastery there. As soon as those dates are finalized, I'll let you know. That's pretty much what's coming up. Take a look at it. It's all on the website. I teach this class on a freely given basis, but I do hope you'll consider making a donation. There's a link on the website to do that. It helps support me and also help support the work that Mettagroup is doing. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you on June 30th, hopefully. Bye now.